Hi, everybody. I hope you guys are doing well, and I hope you guys are ready. We're going to jump into some Rune 2 here, but we're on the phone with Mitch, who we're going to, who from Human Head Studios, and we're going to talk all sorts of Rune 2. When did you start on this project? Because this project's been going for quite a while, right?
So Rune 2 has been in development for roughly two and a half years. I started with the team
Loki raced from
in
Asgard with Freya's necklace, the Brazilian.
April or May. It was like right after PAX.
Right.
Ragnarok's rising waters.
You know, in the typical community manager fashion, instead of breaking up when my life is by months, I break it up by conventions.
Yeah. Conventions are like, you know, release dates and quarters.
Yep.
Again and again.
Yeah, it's one of those things, but like, it's also one of those things where as somebody who is really has to be focused on like what is happening near release rather than entirely through the development of everything that's happening. It must be a little bit challenging for you to kind of pick that up, but it's kind of like probably in the job description to be able to pick up a lot of the information very quickly.
Yeah, I'm of the opinion that like, in order to be an effective community and social media and influencer manager, like you need to be an expert in your product. So I just kind of jumped in with like both feet, and I have played a lot of development builds of Rune 2.
Nice. So what's your favorite part that we're like maybe near the beginning that we can talk about now?
I think one of the things that really like that I really love about Rune 2 that's been carried forward and improved forward was just like the ability to cut someone's arm or leg off and then beat someone else to death with it.
I think last time we played I killed somebody with somebody else's head or skull.
Yep.
Which was fun. It's savage, right?
We actually made a lot of changes based off of how we saw people playing Rune 2. So like one of the really key pieces of feedback we got was, hey, this human head should not be doing more damage.
Yeah, that was interesting.
Sword that I'm carrying.
That was interesting, yeah.
We changed it so it does a lot of damage, but it breaks really quickly, and it can't be repaired. Because previously you could repair the durability on it, and it would do more damage.
Sure.
Now, like they're really good as a last resort. They're really bad if like you're trying to mainline an arm or a head.
So it sounds like it. From what I've seen in a lot of, we played a good amount of time last time and kind of checked it out. It seems like you were very much left to what you have on you, and you want to be kind of prepared when you're going into something crazy because you never know what's going to happen. So it sounds, and I was reading one of the tips in the game, which was basically you want to use your fists because they will work as a piece of last defense there. So using everything that you have on your person is something that you're going to be looking at in this game rather than, oh, I have the best weapon, I'm just going to stick with this one weapon forever.
Yeah, and that's actually a very good point, because we're about to see that. So with the gods, you have an initial god weapon, and
right.
Previously they were repairable and players were just taking them throughout the entire game because it was the best thing that they had.
Right.
Now they're not repairable and they auto dismantle when their durability is exhausted, so it's forcing you to interact with more of the systems.
So okay, so talk to me a little bit more about the gods here. So there's three. We have Hel on the right, Odin in the middle, and Thor on the left. What's sort of the thought process that has gone behind choosing first of all, choosing these three gods, and how do they work as far as a game system?
So we wanted to choose the gods / goddess that we felt had the strongest ties to Loki and the strongest ties to Ragnarok as a whole.
Makes sense. Yeah, you have.
And then,
yeah.
As far as like gameplay wise, we sort of view the gods as, in a way, they're classes, but in a way they're not. So like, Thor is like very hammer proficient, Odin's very spear proficient, and Hel's very axe proficient.
But you can always switch between what you're using all the time, right? And it's not like
you
a
can switch
there's
your
no
weapon,
sticking
but
point.
you cannot switch your god.
Right. So when what you're getting with the god is a little bit of stat buff and debuff too.
Correct. Each god has their own sets of bonuses and debuffs, and then each god also has a unique weapon that they tend toward.
And so
really
there's a
wanted to
timer on each
focus-
one. How does the timer work exactly? Like, is that just how long you have to prepare to go after Loki?
Yeah. So each age has a timer associated with it. At the end of the timer, or when you blow Heimdall's Galahorn,
Right.
the world ends and Ragnarok begins. The goal of the timer is to give players a sense of urgency, but
Yeah.
it's also to push you along if you get stuck.
So basically, you have, and you have these objectives to go gather. Right now, we have it right now. Go gather the artifacts for the Bifrost Gate. And from what we've seen, is you don't have to do those things. So I'm assuming this is what you're talking about when you get stuck. Like if you can't get one of the artifacts, you can still continue forward by blowing the horn. It just may be a little bit more of a challenge.
That's correct.
Okay.
So every artifact that you get in the overworld, in Midgard, is equal to 1 resurrection when you're fighting Loki.
Oh.
So the more artifacts you have, the more lives that you've got when you're going up against Loki in the Vigrid Plane.
Right. Sounds like he probably gets way harder after each age.
Yeah, so I think you guys played up to the second or third Loki fight.
Something like that. Yeah, like we were finishing Age of Frost, I believe.
Okay. There's more Loki after that. He
Yeah.
gets significantly harder.
I see.
And he also scales, so fighting Loki in single player, you'll have a little bit of a different experience versus fighting Loki in co-op.
Oh, so okay, so the mechanics change a tiny bit, yeah?
Yes.
Or
So we actually scale the entire server in co-op to
Mhm.
the player with the highest level.
oh,
And
okay.
then your character does not come with you. Everything is saved server side.
Yeah.
So every time that you join a new server, you have to create a new character. We did it with the expectation of if you join a game that's later on and you're playing co-op, people will, drop better gear for you.
Yeah.
And then additionally, we didn't want players to take their level 50 character into like a level 5 server and trivialize the experience, or they join a level 5 server and suddenly all the enemies scale up to level 50 and like everyone that's level 5 is just like dead immediately.
Right. And it's not like your typical like survival games servers where you just have something and you have to basically catch up to everybody that's been playing for like weeks on end. Everything as far as I understand, everything resets after you kind of finish all the things that the game has to give you, or at least the timers that go on.
Roughly. So
Okay.
the main artifact quest resets. Recently we added paths to the game, which if you hit, I think it's Y by default, and then all the way over to the right,
Mm-hmm.
there's a bunch of paths.
Which is
those
like
all
objectives
carry
and stuff,
with
right?
you.
Oh, okay.
It's like defeat 5 bandits, add building materials, defeat 8 thralls.
Right.
Stuff that you would normally be doing, and maybe stuff that you didn't think about to go do, but we're rewarding players for it.
Right. Making you stronger and stuff like that.
Yeah, and
gotcha.
it's a very nice catch-up for like players who are joining late. Go ask your friends for like 99 wood, because they probably have 1,000 wood, and then just go craft a bunch of stuff, and you'll get a bunch of basically free experience.
So okay, so it's pretty easy for somebody to catch up to their friends that have been playing for a while.
Yep. We also recently added a change based off of co-op feedback that now when you turn in an artifact, everyone gets experience.
Oh, okay, good. Yeah, that was a little bit interesting how it was the person that turned it in that got the rewards for it, right?
Yes.
So what's it like? What did you say the main differences are between playing co-op and solo?
things get a lot more crazy with 4 people, because we scale enemy health and number of enemies and enemy damage, and then like gear drops.
Would you say teamwork changes a little bit with more players? Like required more?
I would say so. Like we've definitely had groups where like one person would max their defensive gear and like they would be the tank. And then like 3 other players, like one of us would sit back with a bow and pick at damage. Another one would like be kiting. Another one would be not healing, but maybe more of the mule that carries all of the meat.
So we have one question Chad asked earlier, which is do you have a god that you prefer to align with?
It used to change a lot because we were constantly making changes to how the god powers felt.
Sure.
They're all really good right now. I just prefer Thor. Because you start with a big flaming hammer.
I was gonna say my axe is pretty cool, but that hammer is giant and fiery. So let's talk about you a little bit. What has been your favorite part about working on this project and just kind of jumping in and saying, hey, this is a team that I enjoy and they feel very creative or what have you? What is something that has just jumped out, and if you have any like stories that are public friendly that you guys want to maybe put out there that can show that devs are human, and I think a lot of gamers, including myself, tend to forget that. It's like, well, there's all these bugs in here. It sounds like you don't care, but at the same time, it's like, well, they're working on all kinds of things at the same time. I'm not saying there are bugs in this, but it's just something that happens in examples. What are some of the things that have kind of helped you get along and bond with your workmates?
So it helps that all of my coworkers are super awesome.
Yeah.
We listen and we see feedback as it happens in real time, and then we talk about it a lot. Like there's a lot of discussions about how we feel about features, how the community feels about features, how people are reacting to us showing off features, and like there's a lot of actionable discussions and feedback that goes into like all of our changes. So like longhouses, for example, are a great example. So early on in development, they were just kind of barren.
Sure.
So there was no rune forge, there's no whetstone, there was a campfire, there was no vault, and there was no anvil. And when we ran some closed door feedback with perhaps some of your favorite streamers, we got a lot of feedback that like, hey, the longhouses don't add enough value. Like I don't think the health regenerates fast enough. The whetstones don't feel good to use, and we talked about it a lot, like a lot.
Yeah.
Like multiple hour-long meetings about it, and eventually we settled on, okay, we're just going to make it so when you build a longhouse, all of the stuff comes with it. Your health will regenerate faster inside to make the longhouses give you more value of being a safe haven.
Uh-huh.
And then additionally, there was one person in particular, when you were still able to craft whetstones, that had just crafted a line of whetstones from here all the way down, because previously the whetstone cooldown was 30 seconds.
Yeah.
And they would just hit every whetstone in a row, and we saw that, and we said, okay, there's got to be a better way.
Yeah.
We just lower the cooldown to like 2 seconds, and like now it feels really good to use it.
There's every now and then Loki will just drop fireballs and lightning on top of you. Is that
Yes.
like is that a thing that like if you're standing still for too long, or is that just something that happens randomly?
So it's kind of two-part. It's on a random timer.
Okay.
And that timer is modified by the number of artifacts that you're holding.
Ah.
So every time that you pick up an artifact, you get a +1 curse level. Oh, I just got wrecked.
I'm getting
Good
hurt
luck.
too. This is not good.
You get a +1 curse level, and that adds to the chances that Loki will drop meteors on you.
Oh, okay. That's cool. Adds a little bit of a change to how you may want to do. It's like I come from playing a lot of roguelites and games where pretty much everything you do is strategized. So it seems like that's kind of part of your strategy too, because you're on a timer and you're like, oh, I gotta spend this time doing this and this time doing this. These are the important things we have to get done because everything else is kind of bonus at that point. Is it sort of designed that way? Or are you just trying to get basically as like strong as you can, no matter what?
It's a bit of both.
Okay.
Hold on, I'm gonna come pick you up in this boat.
Okay. Oh, I spawned back at the...
So, Rune 2's not a roguelike, not a roguelite, it's not a battle royale, despite what the internet might tell you.
Is that something that people have said?
People have asked if Rune is a battle royale. We're not a battle royale.
Okay.
So like your progress will carry forward between ages and between deaths. And
Sure.
actually, at one point in development, we had it where you would drop all your stuff when you died.
Mm-hmm.
And then we changed it at one point to where you would drop your currently equipped stuff when you died. If you want to head north to that shore, come meet you over there. And then finally we settled on how it is now, where you just keep everything when you die.
And how did that... What caused those evolutions?
Playing the game and like the distance between respawns and progressively like the game's difficulty with being tuned.
Sure.
This game has gone through a lot of difficulty tuning, and like, you know that feeling in Dark Souls where like you lose all your souls, and then you're like on the quest to get them back, and then you die and you lose all of the souls permanently.
And they're gone forever.
And, like, how bad that feeling is. That's what we're trying to avoid, and that's a lot of like what that feeling was.
Okay, yeah, I get that. But there's got to be some type of original thought process behind. We want that challenge to exist, but was it just like it was just too much, just absolutely just too much? So we got to get rid of a lot of that.
Yeah, we got feedback on it. Like if this was not an open world game, it might make sense, but because it's open world and there's so many different like spawning systems and combat systems and weather systems and trap systems and like that sort of thing, meteor systems, like it feels bad to die to RNG, and if you die to RNG because Loki drops a meteor on you, that doesn't feel great.
Right. Yeah, it can get people to just quit the game forever. It
feels better to die to like an enemy hitting you in the face than like a meteor being dropped on you.
Yeah, it sounds like definitely it's more acceptable to lose 10 minutes of progress than to lose like a couple hours.
Yeah. Especially in a game where you're constantly on a timer.
Right. Yeah, definitely.
10 minutes feels like a couple hours.
What are are there any like main game mechanics that the weather plays on your gameplay?
We have some visibility systems.
Mm-hmm. With fog, I guess it'd be hard.
Right. That sort of thing. Especially comes into effect when like sailing across the world, because you know, fog, and there's a bunch of rocky outcroppings, and oh no, I just ran my raft into a rock.
Yeah. What is like? How big is this whole world you can explore?
So this world is 4.5 kilometers by 4.5 kilometers. If you hit M for map and then just zoom all the way out.
Oh.
There's a lot of map to go.
Is this so? If you zoom all the way out, is every part of this map explorable?
Yes, everything up to the edges. At the edges, we have a nice turn back.
Does it kill you or does it just stop you?
I want to say it does like damage over time to you, kind of akin to like how if you jump in the freezing cold water and conduct hypothermia, you'll get damage over time.
Gotcha.
I try not to go outside of the map.
Yeah, 100%. Somebody said in chat like earlier, because I was talking about playing the game before we started, they're like, oh man, like one of my earliest like gaming memories is getting together with my friends in the original Rune and like kind of seeing basic survival and combat mechanics in Rune. Like you kill something and you can actually like pick up their gear and stuff like that, and that's most people don't think about the fact that that kind of all started with Rune Classic. And now with this stuff out and how many years have passed to where, you know, devs can learn about what people have been enjoying since then and be able to throw all that into a big place where, again, we talk about this a lot. I have no ancestry from any type of Nordic land, like at all, but I'm pretty knowledgeable in it because it's an interesting lore, so it's just, it feels like it's a perfect way to say, hey, let's write a love letter to this mythology and something that is, you know, full of a bunch of warriors and people who really care about their land and their mythology, to say, hey, this is great. What sort of goals do you have in mind to be able to say, hey, we really want to drive home how much we care about everything that we put in here?
It's a really good question.
I spent a little bit of time thinking of some stuff. Some of them might be stumpers. Like, please let me know if you don't have anything. That's totally understandable. I get it, especially if it's like something that, I mean, this isn't, you're not like the CEO of the company. You don't have like this whole vision that you came up with years and years ago. I get it, but whatever that you've seen and maybe have.
This is a question where I really wish our project director, Chris Reinhardt, was here, because like he would have an excellent answer for this, because he also worked on the original Rune Classic.
Sure. Yeah.
And actually, a big chunk of the Rune Classic developer team worked on Rune 2.
Sure.
So, as far as like handling elements with love and care, a lot of everything that you're going to see in Rune 2 was deliberately placed there by a person.
Right.
It wasn't like copied from one part of the world to the other. Like everything visually and like realistically, it's so different from island to island, from age to age, from fight to fight. A lot of passion and smarts and love and care went into making Rune 2 the best game that it could be, not just for us, the developers, but for our players and our fans.
That's cool. That's awesome. I mean, you always, you know, there's no game developer out there that goes out to make a game that they don't necessarily care about. But there's some games out there that you're like, well, our publishers asked us to make this. I think this is cool. It's got some cool aspects, but it's not really something that we have our full heart into. But every time I've heard, I mean, you've talked about this. Every time I hear the media releases that come out, it really just sounds like there's a lot of care and thought that come behind this game in general. That's kind of where that question sparked from in my mind, is like, if we could pinpoint exactly where that came from. But it definitely, like, yeah, that's awesome. It's awesome to hear that people really do care about their games. And my biggest message that I try to help and put out, and that's why it's so nice to have somebody like you here, is because there's, again, I'll say it again, nobody goes out to make a bad game. Nobody goes out and just says, hey, we're just gonna phone it in, we don't really care. Sometimes it sounds like certain companies phone stuff in, but they don't mean to. It's just something that there's a bunch of problems that happen, and sometimes you just got to get a game out. But it sounds like there's not really a whole lot of pressure that you're feeling from too many outside sources. It sounds like you're allowed to make the game that you want, and it sounds like you guys feel inspiration behind a lot of different things in just gaming in general. Would you say that's pretty true?
Yeah, I would say that's pretty accurate.
It's always good. See, now you guys heard it. You guys heard it from developers themselves. They care about the stuff they do pretty much every single time. But looking at Rune 2, you can really tell that there's a lot of things here, which is nice.
Like, there was a co-op playthrough that we were doing internally, and partially through the playthrough, one of our teammates just decided to see how many boats they could build. Just cause.
Yeah.
And like they tried to make they made a line. They made a bridge of boats from one island to another, just to see if they could do it.
Yeah. I get it.
They did it. It looked really funny.
It sounds like there's a lot of, let's see how many things we can make in this game, because you're never not gonna need something. There's always something out there, you know.
Yeah.
I could see somebody sitting home and just legitimately just crafting all day while everybody goes out and gathers the materials and kills things. Like, I could see somebody wanting to take that job.
Absolutely. With paths, like, we want to make sure that you're rewarded for playing the game how you want to. So like, that's why all the paths are optional.
Yeah, right.
So like, if you don't want to be the one that dumps all the wood into rebuilding Midgard, you don't have to be.
Right. But you know, there's
like,
enough people out there that want to do that, you know.
Yeah, of course. But like, we wanted the rewards to make sense. So like, if you're the person who does want to go rebuild Midgard, when you complete the path steps for add material to a rebuildable, you get more wood pieces, so you can keep doing that.
Right.
It's a very nice positive feedback loop.
Yeah, that seems good, because a lot of games today feel very grindy. It's like, I wouldn't need to grind out, you know, I need to chop down 100 trees to get 200 pieces of wood, and then once I do that, all my wood's gone. So it's like, oh, okay, now I gotta go do all that again, because the next quest I have is do that twice as much. So it sounds like you reward that a little bit differently, if I get that right.
And there are aspects of what you've described, but we've definitely tried to make it so the reward balances out those aspects.
Now, is everything persistent here? Like, if we killed like 10 out of 20 guys here and we came back, it would be 10 more left?
Sort of. We've got some wave technology systems.
Okay.
I don't know if it's in this specific zone, because we're in the first stage and we're still trying to introduce players to how this loop works, but definitely in later low-key zones where enemies will continuously spawn on top of you.
Oh,
and then additionally, one of the changes that we made, there's a dude chasing you.
There is? Oh, yep. There's also a deer.
What is... Come back, please. Thank you.
Oh, hello. Did you just drop lightning on him?
Yeah.
To my tower quickly.
I played the Thor.
There you go.
It is time to breach Loki's
What are you the god of? Let me show you!
God of hammers. But as I was saying, we definitely made it so recently it used to be persistent.
Sure.
With like, there was an artifact named Boss in there that was the holder of the artifact, and you left him at half health, and then you came back, he would still be at half health. Now to signify that they power up and they regenerate, now they regenerate some health when they're left unattended.
Okay.
And for later artifact bosses, you don't want to go too long in between attending to them.
It's part of more of that the sense of urgency you were talking about earlier, right?
Yes.
I'm pretty sure I had an arrow stuck in my neck, and then I was able to pull it out and use it. That's pretty cool.
You're fine. just like rub some salt on it.
It's fine. Well, it's just the fact that I can use the thing that stabbed me to stab the other dude, which that's always fun. That's always one of those cool
thing is
things.
to throw a spear at someone, and then run up and take the spear and then stab them with it. But the spear just kind of sticks out of them.
I want to see. Wait, so arms will fall off while they're still alive too, right? Like thralls and stuff.
Occasionally.
So can you pick up their arm that fell off and beat him to death with it?
You bet you can.
Because that might be one of the greatest things in the entire world. I don't remember the first time I've seen that in like a movie or something, but it's always been hilarious. That's like, I'll rip your arm off and beat you half to death with it. And it's just, now you can finally do that. You can finally do that, guys. Your dreams have come true. Right here, right now.
All your arm-ripping dreams have come true. One of the things that we actually added in the last couple weeks was gibbing.
Sure.
Wherein, like, it's a bit more violent. So, like, enemies will just sometimes explode into a pool of gibs.
Ah, okay.
We also added a lot of those modifiers on your god power. So, like,
Oh,
it used to be when you use your god power, everything would fall over dead. Now everything either falls over dead or explodes.
nice.
It's,
I think I remember
very
taking
satisfying.
damage from something that was exploding.
Yep. It's a little bit of that.
Cool. This is there's a lot to really take in. This is one of those. It feels like a familiar game, and I hope that's a compliment because it feels like a game we've played 100 times. But the deeper and deeper you go into it, the more you find out that's really not. It's actually quite a bit different because there's just so many different like features and stuff that you're talking about, and so many different genres kind of mixed together. It sounds like maybe that's what you guys were going for, but if it's not, like, please correct me there.
We certainly are. Because there's so much inspiration taken from other genres.
Yeah.
One of the challenges has been, how do we accurately describe this game in like a 30-second elevator pitch
Sure, yeah.
to someone? Without like, cause this is really a game where like you need to just sit down and play it for like a half hour and then you get it.
Yeah.
What we've settled on is Rune 2 is an epic action role-playing game with survival elements steeped in rich Norse mythology. Also, in the last few weeks, we've been called a looter stabber.
Yeah.
And I'm totally okay with that.
Right, you play a lot of Destiny too, yeah?
I play a lot of Destiny.
Yeah. Seems like that's kind of the it's a good draw for a lot of people who just want to sit down and play a game for a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely.
Would you say this is a game that you can play for maybe a short amount of time, like every couple days or whatever?
Yeah, this is definitely a game that you can, like, if you just want to play one age, and that's like, say you have like an hour and a half or 2 hours to play, and you just want to play one age, that's a pretty good stopping point to like set down and then come back to.
Sure.
And then like if you have a dedicated co-op group, we kind of envision you, if you like set times like, hey, we're gonna play for like 3 hours on this night, and then in 2 days we're gonna pick this back up and finish this campaign.
And what's it if there's like one person who wants to get on and continue to do stuff? Is that something that would hinder that or change that in any major fashion?
So all progress is saved server side. So, and all of our scaling is to the highest level player in the server.
Sure.
So.
But they can come on and collect stuff. So where you come on, if you come on, you can maybe craft your own materials and whatever.
Absolutely. It's gonna change the age that like the co-op group stopped at. But if they just want to come on and, like, you know, punch every tree down on this island, or punch every rock down that they can, and, like, get as many materials as they can, that's totally something that they can do.
Okay. And is there a character progression, or is it mostly all gear?
Both. So there's character progression stats in the bottom left corner of your inventory. Those will automatically level and level different aspects as you level up, and we automatically assign those points. And then additionally, your gear will give you bonuses.
That's the XP on the bottom right, your level and stuff, right?
Correct.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know if any of the starting gear has bonuses on it. I don't believe it does. But as we get later and later into the game, you'll start getting gear with random modifiers on it. So, like, you might find a helmet that gives you plus 10 health, plus 10 stamina, but minus 10 move speed, and it can't be repaired.
So, okay.
And there are a lot of different types of those mods.
And is it somewhat designed around the fact that they may be better on certain people that have devoted to specific gods?
Yes.
Okay.
So, like, certain mods will give you additional god power points.
Okay.
So at the end of the game, like hell, right now you start off with your ice spikes and you get, like 5 or 10. When you get up there and you get a ton of god power points, you just get a field of ice spikes.
Oh, okay.
It
That's
looks
cool.
awesome.
Yeah, I don't think we got there last time.
That's like level 20-ish.
Okay.
And our level cap's 50.
Oh, okay. Good. Okay. So, but it feels like a progression of, your magic and stuff more than just I'm putting on the best gear to then be the best.
Yeah, and it's definitely a combination of like you as a player have to get good.
Right.
Because all of our weapons have different movesets.
Oh, yeah.
All the weapons archetypes have different movesets, and then all the movesets are based off of what direction you're holding. So like forward, left, right, back, or like if you're in the air, or if you're moving left, or if you're moving right, or if you're doing like a jump spin attack, or if you're doing a critical attack. I think critical's on left control by default.
Oh.
I have a gamer mouse, so it's on my thumb button.
Gamer mouse.
What?
But that takes
Gamer?
a lot of stamina.
Yeah.
Oh wow, it's like a lot of stamina.
At one point in development, it took around 75% of your stamina. And we tried it, and it was too much, and then we scaled it back. And now I think it's like
50%.
Yeah, roughly 40 to 50. When you run out of stamina, you can still attack.
It's like a
block when you're out of stamina, you get knocked down.
Sure. So you're pretty vulnerable when you're out of stamina.
Yes, that's correct.
It does feel like Dark Souls at that point. You're like, oh, I need to actually pay attention to that. But that's the part of like the getting good you're talking about, because like no matter how strong you are, if you keep running out of stamina and don't pay attention to that, you're gonna get wrecked.
Right, and if you get surrounded by enemies and you don't have a way to deal with that, whether that's like I'm gonna use a weapon that has a really wide arc, like a greatsword, or I'm gonna use a Rune of Force to split this up. I'm gonna use a Rune of Teleport to like try to kite enemies. You're gonna go down pretty quick.
Sure.
So we really want you to approach combat with a very like critical thinking mind.
Can I steal this? Is this valuable? What is this?
You cannot steal this. This is a lodestone. In the single player campaign, Heimdall uses it to show you extra artifacts on the map, almost like hints. In co-op, it's disabled, but it looks really cool.
So that's part of the teamwork that is kind of being enforced there. Is you have more people, so we're gonna give you slightly less help.
Correct.
Okay.
And then during development, we went back and forth about ways to reveal artifacts. Like at one point, all of them were just on the map. So if you were in an age where you needed 8 artifacts, all 8 of them were just on the map.
Oh, okay.
Right now, we've settled on, and you'll see this in the next page. There's always 2 on the map, and then when you turn an artifact in, the next one is revealed if there's 1 available.
Okay.
So it really focuses you to go to places in a specific order, and it also really prevents the there's too much to do, so now I'm paralyzed by choice.
Yeah. Definitely, that's definitely something that I have problems with. You give me too much to do, I get distracted and start doing stupid stuff that just has nothing to do with what I'm supposed to be doing anymore.
Right, and we actually combat that with paths.
Yeah.
So if you look in your path screen right now, there's not a lot.
Right.
As you progress through different ages, we award more and more paths. So you're still building on top of paths and building on top of those systems, but right now, you have a pretty good starting. In later ages, there will be more things that you can do.
But so what I'm noticing is the paths are pretty much one giant guide, right? It's kind of like telling you, giving you a little nudge in what you should be doing.
Yeah, if you don't know where you should be going, consult your path screen. If you're a completionist, consult your path screen.
Well, yeah, definitely. Yeah, it seems
Can't
like
wait.
there's always something to do here.
I'm really excited to see people who sink like 40, 50 hours into this game and get the screen that has like, you did all of the paths.
It would look like it would also be interesting in a co-op setting to have different people focus on different paths for faster team progression within an age. Yeah, totally. I would
Absolutely.
Yeah, because we were talking about that earlier with teamwork, and if like if you focused on all the building paths and somebody focused on all the combat paths, well, you'd probably get your paths done faster because you wouldn't be having to go from side to side to side, but also because it may just get you further down. Like, it's not really a tech line, right? It's more like you're just getting experience, and probably more experience for the heart of the path.
Correct. And you'll get like additional rewards. So like, where it's a good path I can get real quick.
It's like speeding down axe building or whatever.
Yeah. So like, if you're doing Path of the Spearsmith and you need to craft a hunting spear, and then you craft a bronze spear, and then a steel spear, and then an obsidian spear, and a stone spear, and that sort of thing, it's constantly rewarding you with better and better loot.
And you're going to be getting better spears faster, whereas instead of, having to do everything, it's like, oh, yeah, I'm only at like, bronze, I'm still finishing bronze spears, but it's because I did everything else. Whereas somebody can be already on the top spear while somebody else was focusing on building.
Yeah, and you can always drop your weapon for your teammate.
Yeah.
Like if you're the building dude and I'm the combat dude, and I craft a really cool sword, I can just give it to you.
Yeah, that seems like that's a nice teamwork faction or function right there. So, I was thinking about this earlier. There's a lot of lore that you pick up through the runes and everything, through the glowing rocks that you find lore pieces on. Or is everything in there kind of connecting to what's happening in the game, or do you throw in stuff that may be surrounding the stories that are told throughout this?
Bit of both. So we tried to make sure that we have that rich Norse mythology vibe, but additionally we do have tied to gameplay elements inside.
Sure.
So like you'll find a lore stone that has a recipe for like a cooked mushroom. You'll find lore stones about like Fenrir and Skull and Heimdall and Odin and Thor and Loki and giants and Draugr and dwarfs and oh my.
That's kind of what I was asking. That's what that's what I was wondering about.
Also give you experience because we want to reward players who seek out that lore and also like, have that sense of exploration.
Right. No, that's precisely what I wanted to know. Like that is perfect, because I mean, I literally just picked up something about the World Serpent, and you mentioned something about Fenrir, and I'm sitting there going, yeah, I mean, as much as they don't necessarily need to show up in the game because they're not totally, I mean, in Ragnarok everybody dies. The entire, like, everybody's just gone, but they don't necessarily play too large of a part necessarily. Whereas, well, in this case you have Fenrir and Jormungand, who is very much, directly related to Loki and Hel, and there's not as big of a part to be played, but they definitely do play at least a part in surrounding and developing the story around what's happening. So yeah, that's exactly what I was wondering, because the last time we played this, I think I mentioned to you, I was like, I want to stop playing the game for a little bit, and I just want to get all the lore, and I just want to read it for a couple hours. Because it sounds like, yeah, you've done exactly that, is add a bunch of things to build the world together.
Yeah, and actually, a fun call to that is in the timer up top, you might notice that there's a wolf trying to eat the sun.
Yeah, actually, Katie had it. My girlfriend, who knows way more about a lot of this than I do, was wondering how does that play into it? How does that play into the game?
As far as what?
Well, I just don't know, because it's what so
it's based off of Skull and Hati,
uh-huh,
which are the two wolves that are trying to
eat each other, right?
They're trying to eat each other, but they're also trying to pursue the sun and pursue the moon.
So this is like just an additional piece to say, well, yeah, the days are passing, and we could just put a clock up there, but we want to throw more flavor into it.
Absolutely.
Because this is pretty much what everybody thought was happening. The whole reason people think that the sun rises and the moon sets and what have you is because that I actually don't know a ton about this, but the wolves are chasing each one respectively.
Correct. There's a gate right here. I just don't want to have to resail across the ocean.
Oh.
Make sure you hit this gate so we have a respawn point.
Oh, yep. I think I remember dying before finding that and then finding that later.
Yep. There is a lot of respawn points and Bifrost gates hidden around the world of Midgard. And honestly, when landing on a new island, you should always be looking for a Bifrost gate.
Because there's usually one, you'd say?
Yeah. Well, not only are there respawn points, they're also fast travel points.
Ah.
Which is actually feedback that we had gotten when we were doing some cloned streamer testing. So if you press Z or Z if you're Canadian, you'll start to kill yourself. I don't know if you're doing it all the way, up to you. But, you know, once you die, you can respawn at any Bifrost gate. So players were just killing themselves and then fast traveling to a Bifrost gate in death.
Because
we're like, there's got to be a better way. So we added Bifrost gates as fast travel points. The caveat is that you can't fast travel with an artifact. So that was something that was like speeding up gameplay unexpectedly.
Sure.
Where like someone would get an artifact and then they would fast travel and then just immediately turn it in. So now if you fast travel with an artifact, you just drop it. Right.
And that's one of those things that like you don't really think about because originally you had like a lot more penalty to dying. So like that would discourage it. But then you switch that up and you have to find a different reason for that.
Correct. That's also something that we added based off of feedback is when something breaks and you throw it, it does more damage.
But it has to be broken?
Well, it has to be like near exhausted on durability.
Okay.
But, like, you know, the idea that the impact of it breaking in real life would do a bit more damage than if you just threw, like, an arm at someone.
Especially if it's, like, splintering bones and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
So how do you throw things?
Press Q to toggle.
Oh, yeah. I'm going to throw the heck out of this arm. I like the dynamic switching of hotbars too.
Yes. So a lot of people are gonna play with hotbars differently. Personally, I put all my weapons in one hotbar and then all my consumables in the other. And then I rebound my hotbars because when I'm at home, I like to use Windows Game Capture.
Yeah.
So I rebound my hotbar from left alt to left control. And then it's just a really quick switch.
Is there a lot of... So I see these runes, like Odin's Unkindness and Thor's Might and stuff like that. Is there a lot... Can you craft those later?
You cannot craft those later. Those are one time as a try before you buy.
Sure.
Because you cannot switch what god you are pledged to. Those give you a chance to experiment with each god power to find which one you like best.
Oh, so it's literally, so if I were to use Hell's Wrath, it's literally my R.
Correct.
Okay. I got you. And so and you get those as soon as you spawn in.
How cool Odin's Ravens was. You could do that.
I will probably do that when we go fight this next thing. That sounds like a great idea.
We also added we changed Odin's Ravens since the last time that you played. So recently, if you used Odin's Ravens, and you weren't around enemies, you would just kind of put your arms up in almost a field goal, and like nothing would happen. And based off of player feedback, we changed it so ravens still come out and they flap around and then they come back in, so it doesn't look like the power just failed.
Ah, okay. I think I do remember that happening. Also, I have this shiny sword, the Rough Blessing Sword of the Lion. I have no idea where that came from.
Ooh, what's the roll on it?
14 defense, -6% critical chance, -1 god power level, and 14% knockdown chance. So it sounds pretty tanky, actually.
It's a pretty good roll.
Salvage to learn recipe. But what am I learning? Just the common sword?
You might learn the blessed sword recipe. You might learn the common sword recipe.
Okay.
Is
Is that based off
the other
RNG?
thing.
Or
Yeah, in a sense. It's also like RNG within crafting. Hold
yeah.
on, that sounds bad. Let me reverse that sentence. So you know how in other games, when you craft something, it always has static rolls.
Sure.
In here, when you craft later leveled equipment, it has randomly rolled mods on it.
Okay.
So if you want to keep crafting until you find the perfect roll, go for it.
Right. So it's like well, so we play a lot of gotchas on this channel too. So it's like rolling gear that you drop and seeing what stats pop up.
Yep. And
Okay.
then when you dismantle the gear, you'll get usually a portion of the materials that you needed to build it back.
Okay.
It's not 1-to-1. You'll have to experiment to find out what that ratio exactly is.
Sure.
But if you want to keep crafting, keep crafting.
Right.
Ooh, I just got some blessed gear.
Nice. Oh yeah, I did. By the way, I did break that down, and I got a lion sword blueprint.
Oh, perfect.
So that's like it's just better than common essentially.
Yeah. Everything's got its basic attack number.
But okay, but can you how do blessings work? Is that what you were just talking about and being able to craft and drop random blessings on it?
So
I got
blessings
wrecked.
give different modifications based off of what type of equipment they're modifying, and then I think it's based off of the age, but I would have to check with our design team before making that call.
But how do you get the blessing, I guess?
Blessed armor, I believe, is mostly found in chests.
Okay.
And then will occasionally drop from enemies. Oh, hey, there's a dude here.
Yeah. What's the name? Ulog? I don't like
Ulog. Warden of Valley. Anytime you want to hit those ravens.
Oh yeah. Well.
You might have to get pretty close up on him though.
Yep, I took him off my hotbar for some reason. Here it is.
I'm dead, so it's all up to you. Good luck.
Oh, okay. Oh, he's mad.
I'm coming.
He's hurt though, like real bad. I gotta eat a lizard. Colors! I fight you with colors!
Oh, I'm here.
Drop the hammer. Nice.
Boom.
Wait, so he chased us way out of the zone?
He did.
He was real mad.
He's very mad. There was another named enemy up there.
How varied are the quests? I suppose it's pretty melee focused, which makes the sense, but beyond finding and securing the artifacts, is there variety? Well, the quest, I'm assuming you're talking about the artifacts. Is there anything beyond that, I guess? Other than, I mean, really the paths are that, right?
Yeah, that paths, definitely.
So if you see these things here, oops, why? These are sort of the quests that I think you're asking about. All these paths and things that you want to craft and things you want to build and things you want to do. Those are pretty much all your quests. But what you're out here doing is finding those are hardly, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, Mitch, but these are hardly quests and more. This is where the artifact is. So find a way to get in there and go grab it.
Right.
Oh, he's mad. Okay.
There. And now because you're holding an artifact, Loki's gonna drop meteors on you a lot. He wants that artifact back. So you're pretty much the only thing that's standing in Loki's way from like actually controlling Midgard and reigning supreme. So he's gonna do a lot to stop you.
Okay.
Whether that's spawning dudes on you, Whether that's me dying, whether that's dropping meteors on you.
So you just have to go to one of the Bifrost, not the gate, but the little portal things down there to turn in the artifact?
Yep, and actually one of the changes that we made recently was when you're holding an artifact, all of the Bifrost gates glow purple instead of blue.
Okay.
Because, you know, the Loki zone's purple, the artifact's purple, it just made sense to have the gate be purple and
Sure.
kind of complete that loop.
Sure, yeah, makes sense. So you know where you're going.
Yep.
Less confusion.
And then when you turn it in, it just goes back to blue.
Ah, I see.
Powerful magics within this trophy. You've done well, warrior.
So are there like, I know we mentioned this earlier, but are there any buffs that come with turning in artifacts, or it's literally the lives and respawning on during Loki's fight?
It's the lives and respawning during Loki's fight. We had played with the idea of like granting buffs.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that got cut because we found some exploits with like you could have one person stack 3 or 4 artifacts on themselves
Oh,
and then just turn them in all at once, and like everyone would just suddenly get really powerful in ways that were not intended.
right.
Now, when you're holding multiple artifacts, your character slows down and you get hit by meteors a lot.
Yeah, I noticed that part before. So you
really
want many
encourage your
people to be
team
gathering
play
them.
together.
Uh-huh. Did I just push us off? My bad.
You just rammed us both into a rock.
We're too tall for this ride. Okay. So.
It's very much like Protect the Runner, and we want you to play together as a team. We don't necessarily want you to go off like you take this corner, you take this corner, you take this corner. We really want to reward team play.
And you said everything scales with more people. That's including everything, right? All enemies, essentially, like, and how many
Correct.
enemies are there.
Correct.
So it's gonna, like, just having people in your server is gonna make things hard, which means going off on your own is gonna just kill you.
Yes. So that's another lever that we flipped to make you stick together with your co-op groups.
Okay, that makes sense. Makes sense. Yeah, chat. Now is the time. If you guys have any questions for Mitch, please throw them in there. I think that's definitely a good one. And more clarification as to what exactly these beacons on the map are, because legitimately, like, you can make these. You could try your hardest to make these quests, or quote unquote quests, so many different varieties. But in the end, it's open world. You're doing whatever it is that you think you want to do, and then these artifacts are just like they're things that you should do before the end of the age, but you really don't even have to do them. You can just go straight and fight Loki if you want to.
So sort of, you need half of the artifacts in the age to blow the Galahorn and fight Loki. So in this age it's 2, in the next age it's 3, in the ages after it's 4. And then those artifacts equal lives. But if you're a good enough player and like good skill wise and good gear wise, and you think you can take on Loki without needing any resurrections, and you just want to go around Midgard and level up and you don't need extra lives, do it. I've got a bit of a surprise for you.
Okay.
I just got a Discord ping from one of my producers that said he's available to hop in with us and chat.
Ooh.
So I'm gonna add him to this call.
Yeah. Yeah.
Danotage, I want you to meet Dan Felt.
Hello.
He's on
Hey,
too.
how's it going?
I like your name. It's a nice name.
I
So,
think it's pretty awesome.
Dan, tell us what you do. What do you do over at you're at Human Head Studios, right?
Actually, I'm at ESDF.
Oh, okay. So tell
we
us a little bit about your position.
This always gets odd because I work as a producer, and most of the time people say, "Well, what does that actually entail?"
Everything.
And it's always weird when you tell people, "Well, whatever needs to be done," and they just laugh, and you're like, "No, seriously, whatever needs to be done." And really, a lot of that is coordinating the various departments to make sure everything gets done and addressed. Anytime you make a game, there's any number of things that can happen, number of things that need to get done. So a lot of it is coordinating the specific departments and giving them direction in what actually needs to be done, especially when it gets into things like art or a lot of times, especially towards the end of a project like this, it's in balancing.
Sure.
I'm sure a lot of people have talked about Rune 2 and the difficulty in combat, because people had noticed some pretty big sways from way too easy to way too difficult. And so you sort of go through this process of balancing things down. So, yeah, generic answer. I do everything.
No, it's I mean it's important because we know that, like, you know, teams get pretty hectic a lot of the time. It gets crazy. I would say that combat right now is actually really easy because Mitch is fighting things while I'm just pegging things with arrows. So Mitch is taking all the damage here. Just gonna let him do that for a little bit. No, I'm kidding. No, this we got wrecked a bunch of times, and it sounds like sounds like there's a lot of, this game can get very challenging. But it also sounds like, especially with what Mitch was saying, was you get rewarded by, like, actually working hard and upgrading what you're doing in your character and stuff like that, which is, it's that feeling of progression that people tend to complain about all the time, which is nice. Nice to see here.
I'm glad you're noticing that, Mitch. You sort of have it easy with Mitch on. Mitch and I have unsurprisingly, a lot of hours in this game. And so a lot of times when it comes down to testing for difficulty or how can we break this with this new system, you know, how broken is, you know, missile combat versus range combat, you know, how powerful are the grenades? Can you exploit these grenades? Can you... Mitch is good at finding those.
That's good. That's awesome. So what's been one of your favorite parts about working on this project?
There's a lot of them. I think my favorite thing really about this game and this project so far is seeing how other people are choosing to play it. We've seen a couple times now where people have made their own like mini games in it. For a while we saw people just trying to kill one another with falling trees. Yeah,
I'm totally not doing that right now.
Oh, okay.
Is that why you keep trying to hit me with trade? I'm over here drinking water, and you're trying to kill me with the tree.
You were standing still, and I needed wood.
Uh-huh. Dan is also the person I refer to as the tree chopper of Midgard.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I joined the server with Dan Felt, and there were no trees on this island. They were all just gone.
Yeah, I definitely. Yeah.
I mean,
so we talked
there's a lot
about
of things that need wood.
we talked about loot a little bit ago and mods, and one of the mods that you can get is called Fast Harvest, where instead of hitting a tree 3 or 4 times and it knocks it down, you hit a tree once and it knocks it down. It's very satisfying to do.
And so that's, you know, we were just talking about that, and it's like, well, yeah, there's going to be somebody who's probably going to chop down as many trees as possible because they do want to be the builder. And it sounds like you've thought of mods and stuff like that that help these people and help these, like, be a little bit more efficient and probably have more fun doing it.
I'm really looking forward to the Reddit thread that says there are this many thousand number of trees in Rune 2.
Oh, God.
Because, you know, someone will, like, go through and cut them all down and count them.
Yeah.
And then we can check that against our actual development and be like, nope, there's more.
Oh, God.
We want to say that is correct. You have found all.
Well, from what it looks like, it really does look like there's a lot of room to explore here and actually go around and find things. It sounds like if you really want to go back and roleplay a bit and become, you know, the rebuilder of Midgard, you can go through and do those things.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
So, I mean, yeah, tell us a little bit about, like, what is it like designing something that you want to be so immersive? Like something that a lot of people, like, it's got to be one of the hardest things, is you're developing with a mythology that a lot of people have a lot of care and thoughts behind a lot of it. So, like, what is that? I mean, I guess, what is that pressure like, and what goes into the thought process behind it?
Well, first and foremost, there were several people from the original Rune working on this. So, as you can imagine, there were a lot of very strong opinions of what it needed to be, what Rune actually meant. You know, what type of game was it, how important the lore was, what needed to be in the game. And it sounds very meta when you talk about it that way, but it's also pretty accurate. We saw a whole lot of input from artists and level designers and everybody about what needed to be in the game. So as you're traveling around, you're going to see some really different styles of islands, and the main islands. I'm sure the names have changed several times. We use the dev names for them: North Cent, East Cent. So you're going to see a lot of that, and really depending on how you want to play, you're going to have your favorite portions of the world that you want to be in.
Sure.
Also, if there's certain enemies you like to fight, you'll find areas that are, you know, the Isle of Giants, Isle of Thralls. It's not called the Isle of Thralls, but you'll see more of those types of enemies. Yeah, designing it was a little bit of a challenge, just because you had so many very strong opinions and people that had... When I say good opinions, I don't think anybody had anything that was like really bad. They were all very positive, but trying to figure out where in the world. And then you'll notice it's a pretty large world. There's a lot to explore.
Mm-hmm.
And I know this sounds like totally generic dev answers, like whatever you want's in the game.
No, totally. Yeah, I get it.
Well, just speaking off of that, like we really want to empower players to tell their own story, and the more systems and the more different aspects of Rune 2 that we can add and then give to players so they can tell their own stories, the better.
Right. Right.
That's why you get things like mushrooms and mead and a lizard that you eat once and then like toss it over your shoulder.
Right. Well, that's kind of like, so I'm a player that, you know, you brought up something that I didn't even think to ask. It sounds like there's sections and places where you're going to find on higher average of, let's say you have a quest that says, oh, I need to find 5 Draugr. And then me sitting here like a dum-dum, I'm like, I guess I just run around until I find 5 Draugr, which you can probably do because randomly you'll probably happen upon something. But if you know that, oh, they spawn here, oh, okay, I'm going to think to, okay, if I need these things, I'm going to remember this location. So when I come back to it, I know that they spawn here. And then you kind of can develop your own story behind, oh, we got to go to Draugr Island and figure out exactly what we have to prepare for and who we're going to fight, and, you know, tell that story of your own behind it. So I didn't actually know that until just now. That's something that is, I think, important to understand.
There's definitely that. We also wanted to make sure that, especially in the cooperative play, that people would get together with their friends and say, hey, let's jump on this boat and let's go do whatever it is. We found several times that people enjoyed just going, as the word says, biking. Hey, we're going to jump on this boat and we're going to go to this corner of the map. Let's see what's there. And we've definitely included things so that people can do that, and they're going to say, I've never seen this island before. Oh, this is what's going on this island. This is cool. Hey, we got to gear up before we come back here because, you know, this is too tough for us right now. So there's a fair amount of that, and definitely it is set up so that you can find what you need in the world. Mitch can probably talk a little bit more about how our ages play into that as well, because we have it set up so that certain items that you need only can be found in a certain age. Granted, those are a little bit rare, just so that people don't feel like, oh, I have to, you know, keep waiting for this specific age before I can get blank.
So does it feel like you are super in need of something that you have to go through, basically sit there and do nothing until the ages comes by, right?
Exactly. So like one item in particular that you'll need for some endgame stuff is like fire giant blood. Fire giants are found in the Age of Fire. Yeah. So we didn't want to make it so you like have to wait for the Age of Fire to come back.
So okay. So
they're a rarity.
Yeah.
But in the Age of Fire, you're going to find them not all over the place, but a fair amount of them.
Way more commonly, right?
Correct.
Okay. So, but you can. Okay, got it. Sorry, I misunderstood. You can find those things at any point in the game. They're just a lot more common during specific ages.
Correct, and they're pretty rare in the other ages, just so that it wasn't okay. Let's just speed through this. We wanted people to go into an age and say, "Hey, what's unique about this age? Let's do the things that are unique about this age."
Sure.
How do we mitigate Age of Frost? How do we mitigate the hypothermia all over the place?
Right.
Okay, now, okay, hey, tree guy that chopped down all the trees, you guys start building us houses. Like, we need these houses to warm up.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Totally. No, I get it. It makes sense. But I guess I didn't even think about the fact that there might be specific items in different ages. So having that knowledge, knowing that they can exist everywhere, but they are more common here. So like, say if you really need something, you're like, oh, we happen to be in that age. Let's go look for it now, so that it doesn't become a little bit harder later.
Right.
And there are a few things that are, I'm going to say, truly only found in certain ages. In one of the ages, and now I'm going to spoil something. I hope I don't get in trouble for this. You're going to find a special type of lizard. And that special type of lizard helps specifically with another age.
Ah, okay.
Is that generic enough, Mitch?
Yeah, I think that's vague enough.
Okay.
We can also say that certain enemies will only show up in certain ages, or certain enemies will have a higher chance to spawn in certain ages. So like, you might have noticed in the Age of Night, there's a lot more undead skeletons.
Oh, okay. The Shufflin' Bear Crew asks in chat, what are some of the emergent gameplay features that you guys have witnessed during playtesting?
Oh, there's a lot.
That's a really good question.
Yeah.
Are there any like big ones that you're like, oh, we like very, very importantly, we're gonna put this at the top of my list. We have to work on whatever it might be for this thing that showed up during testing.
Oh, I can think of one.
There's a lot. Wow. Go for it, Mitch.
Force runes are used. The intended purpose of force runes were to, separate out enemies so you wouldn't get overwhelmed. But in co-op, as we found, a lot of people like to push their friends around as well.
Okay. Yeah, I did do that on accident.
Yeah, like off of high places or cliffs, or like
death.
off of a boat to their death.
Oh, did you get rid of that?
Oh no, that's still there.
Okay, good. I was like, I was doing that last time I was playing. I remember that. It was gonna be sad.
We actually, we had a lot of discussions about that, about whether or not we should keep it as affecting players or not. I'm really glad we kept it, because I think it's pretty funny.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
There's a balance between griefing and having fun.
Yeah.
And so it was one of the issues we struggled with, because you don't want anybody to not play the game because they're like, oh, I'm just going to keep getting knocked around to my death. So we did have to balance with how many elevated areas in the game are truly open where you can be knocked off to your death. Can I swim to the islands? In this age, what's the chance of me actually dying of hypothermia? So there's a lot of fine tuning on that subject specifically, but I think we have a pretty well balanced.
Okay. So it felt like there's stuff that people could do, but maybe if they really wanted to be abusive about it, it'd be hard for them.
Correct. We've definitely found and pat internally a lot of those systems, and I think Dan knows exactly which one I'm talking about, before we released it out to the general public.
Gotcha.
And there's also like some of those emergent gameplay elements that, like, again, we put it out there and then we ran some closed door feedback sessions, and people use stuff in ways that we didn't think, and we either included it in the game as a feature, or we took it out as an exploit.
Okay. All right. So without saying what these things might be, with my next question, without saying what these are, So I'm gonna explain a situation the last time we did the co-op stuff that
Sure.
I was pretty astounded by, and I was like, oh, this is like it feels like a cool real progression, which was like making the Viking ship, right? Going from the raft to the Viking ship and being able to hold like multiple people and so, like feeling like you're Vikinging, like you're actually a Viking sailing through the seas. Are you able to tease any like major things that you might show up with possibly that same feeling?
Bitch.
Remember how I gave that answer about some things are best answered through gameplay and player exploration?
Yes.
That's my answer.
All right, Chad, I tried.
You really did. But again, we want people
No, of course.
to play Rune 2 and we want them to experience everything that Rune 2 had to offer. And like a lot of coverage has been placed on the first couple hours of Rune 2, but Rune 2 is a 12 to 15 hour game.
Right.
There's a lot more of Rune 2 to go.
Right. That was the big thing, was like when we spent a lot of time like getting used to the game and learning a bunch of the major and main mechanics that were pretty basic. You know, a lot of us had played games before, obviously. But it was like, oh, we get these things, but there's some caveats that we still need to learn a little bit. And then we got to the, you know, we've seen this before, but still we got to building out the Viking ship, and we're like, oh, okay, now we're at a point where we feel like we're part of a Viking village, and we're about to go and maybe pillage a land. And thankfully this land is full of actual bad guys and not like, you know, citizens, but still it's like, oh, these are like bad guys that we are about to just plunge in and drop like we're on the beaches of Normandy or something like that. And I was like, oh, okay, this is a good emergent, maybe not gameplay, but emergent encompassing of being within the world, which I thought was nice. So I'm excited to see more of those as we play a lot further when the game comes out. So I wanted to tease chat with that a little bit.
Rafts are cool, but nothing beats a Viking longship.
Yeah. True. Oh yeah. Exactly.
Especially if you don't mind me plugging, when you pre-purchase or purchase the Godslayer edition of Rune 2, you get a really cool black and red and gold longship called the Ship of the Valkyrie.
Oh, that's cool.
Along with a bunch of other pre-purchase goodies like Godslayer armor, which is like all decked out in gold, and like legendary Sigurd's axe, which players may remember from Rune Classic, and that sort of thing.
And you guys have mentioned that you've got a lot of devs or a few devs at least from the original Rune Classic. Is there a good amount of like throwbacks or references?
Yes,
there are.
So Rune Classic fans may recognize Conrak the Betrayer, who
I already turned in his heart. Sorry.
Oh, well, I think Danotage might have gotten killed by him earlier.
I think so. Yeah, I think I did.
He was the Draugr that had the big fiery sword.
Yeah. Yeah, he was the last guy who died too.
Yeah, Conrak was Rune Classic. There's a lot of love letters to Rune Classic.
That's awesome. I remember for about a week after we played the co-op alpha, I kept getting a lot of comments of like, I saw you playing that game. Is it anything like the original? I was like, from what I'm seeing is, because I played the game, you know, like 19 years ago. I don't really remember a whole lot about what I felt like that, because I was like, what, 11, 12?
I mean, like, well, when you think about it, like, Rune Classic is now old enough to vote.
Yeah.
And that's
crazy.
In itself almost a scary thought.
Yeah.
It's cool. It's equally scary.
But it's also like, it's old enough to where people are gonna, even if they were playing games when they were little, they probably may not be young enough to say, oh, I actually had a chance to play the original. But no, you have a lot of people who probably didn't have that chance, and now they're experiencing this for the first time. Is that something that, I mean, I'm assuming, because there's probably a lot of new devs that didn't work on Rune Classic. Is that something that sort of has gone through your minds a lot too? It's like, oh, people may not know anything about this. Let's develop something that's for everybody.
There's a large portion of that. It's an odd thing in modern gaming. There are several games out there that are known for something in particular. Hey, this game is just very difficult. If we want to get into like the Souls games, you know, there are people that have got to the point where they've sort of mastered it. But anybody jumping into it, you're going to say The thing about this game is it's very difficult. When we started with Rune 2, the goal was, what can we give players so they have fun? We want them to enjoy this game. Are they going to play it together? Are they going to play it solo? If they're on a co-op server, are they still going to play it solo? You know, how do we make sure that people are having fun and get immersed in the world? So there was definitely a lot of meetings about, it's not weird, design philosophy of what is Rune? How do we allow people to experience Rune? One, at their own pace, but at the same time, make sure that they're constantly being immersed in it.
Well, before I let you guys go and stuff like that, I wanted to actually ask you. I know you guys have the pressure of getting this game out because it's like right around the corner. We're like very, very close to finally being able to say, hey, this is available for purchase. Everybody can get this. I believe this is exclusive to the Epic Game Store for now.
Yes, so Rune 2 will release on November 12th, 2019 on the Epic Game Store and on other PC platforms in 2020. And November 12th is like, well, for me it's 1 a.m., so it's like 2 days away, which is like crazy?
Yeah.
Like, wow, it's happening.
So you have that happening. I know you guys are mostly thinking about that, but is there anything that you may have planned for future progress or possibly DLC or anything that you have that can be talked about at this moment?
Our primary focus is getting Rune 2 out for launch. As far as like post-launch plans, we don't have anything that we're talking about right now.
Sure.
But we encourage everyone to stay tuned.
Okay, cool.
Good answer, Mitch. Good answer.
So it sounds like there's thoughts running around, but nothing nothing to talk about at the moment.
We're always excited to see where our audience wants Rune 2 to go next and what direction it wants to take. But again, our primary focus is let's make sure that Tuesday's launch is the best that it can be and that people have a really good time with it.
That's awesome. As you heard, it's like moments ago, there's actually some pretty awesome, especially if you're already a Rune fan, some pretty awesome pre-order bonuses and gear and stuff like that. So if you want to pick it up on November 12th, do that. I will more than likely be playing, so if you guys would like to join me on my server, I'm pretty sure that these guys in my wonderful call right now, Mitch and Dan, would absolutely enjoy that. And do you guys have a Discord or any way? What's the best way for people to provide feedback and be able to talk to you guys?
So we are on every major social platform: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, Twitch, Discord, and we actually just announced earlier on Saturday. I hesitate to call it yesterday because I know that you're a West Coast person, so it's earlier today for you.
Yeah.
That we have separate Russian vKontakte and Discord servers. So pretty much everywhere on the internet we're Play Rune, PLAYRUNE, or with the exception of Twitter and vKontakte where we're Play_Rune. But if you're looking for like the official Rune 2 Discord, discord.gg/playrune.
I want to put that.
If all of those links are too hard to remember, if you go to rune2.com and scroll all the way down, they're all on there. And I believe we have it set up so you can type in the numerical 2 or Rune II.
That's genius. So okay, so go check out all those things. As you can tell right now, and the reason that they hit me up to do this interview is they really want your guys' feedback, and they want you guys to play the game, actually tell them what you think about what you like, what you dislike, and how you would like to see things change if you wanted to change, or what you like to see stay and how it works pretty well. Hit them up as much as you possibly can, or try not to bug them too much. But do your best to have some fun and enjoy Rune 2 when it comes out on November 12th, right on the Epic Game Store. This is you said PC platform, so it's PC only at the moment, right?
Correct.
Okay, cool. So there you go.
We don't have anything to announce regarding Rune 2 on other non-PC platforms.
Well, thank you guys so much for hanging out with me today. Like truly, I think there's a lot of fun to have in here, and there's a lot of hours to be spent in here. And if there's anything you guys want to like shout out or talk about before we end this, please say something, like whatever you guys want. The floor is yours.
I hope everyone that plays Rune 2 really enjoys it. A lot of love and care and passion went into making Rune 2 the best game that it possibly can be for a launch. And you know, at $29.99 with like this much content, it's a pretty good value.
Yeah, generally I defer to Mitch on most of these types of things. As far as development goes, there's definitely a lot of content in here for people to enjoy and explore, and play the way they want to play.
Yeah, and we're really excited to have our players finally get their hands on Rune 2.
As somebody who's been following it for a while and has played it now a few times, I can personally attest to say, I know this is a whole sponsored stream and stuff like that, but I can personally say that I see the passion and heart that's gone into this, and the chat, I would do my very best not to lie to you ever. I've seen all this and I've seen what's going on. It's not like it's not something cheesy that people have thrown together. Trust me. If this was offensive towards what I like and love, and when it comes to Viking lore and mythology behind all this, I wouldn't have taken this deal at all. I wouldn't even entertain the thought. The fact that I've seen how much passion and love has gone into this is exactly why we're streaming this right this very moment in time. So everything these guys are saying, I can say from the outside perspective that I very much see that, and I'm thankful to have these guys in my life for sure.
I'm gonna pass everything that you just said on to our team, because
please do, man. I hope they get the message. I really do. I really I'm happy to see that games like this exist, and I'm happy that you guys are doing stuff that makes a lot of sense for you. So awesome.
Well, thank you for having us on.
No, thank you.
Thank you, Danotage.
Of course. I mean, whenever you guys launch, on the 12th when you guys launch, you can bet your sweet booties you'll see me in those servers, and I'd love to play some more with you guys and do some cool stuff. So thanks, guys.
Heck yeah.
So that is right there. I mean, you guys heard it all. I said it all. Basically, I hope you guys think about this game. Obviously, we've said this a million times. There's a lot of games that are coming out, and I know, we had this conversation like several times in the last 72 hours. I know it's being exhausting. It's been exhausting for so many reasons to see this game. Oh, I need to get that game. Oh, I need to get that game. Oh, I need to get that game. Just think about for a little bit what games that you want, what game companies and stuff that you really want to support, what games that you think are really well made to the point where even if there are a few bugs here and there, which is something that you think you'll have the most fun with. And hopefully when we do these, like we talked about this yesterday too, when we do these sponsored streams, it's because it's games that we think are worth showing off. And if you know me, you know that I try my best not to take things that I know will ruin my reputation, even if it's worth a lot of money or just a moderate amount of money or whatever it might be. We do our very best to show off that, well, I do at least, do my very best to show off things that I think I fully believe in. And I would never take any sponsorships that I didn't believe in. We did a co-op stream not that long ago with a bunch of people in this game, and it was like, oh, that was super fun. That was cool. I'm glad we did that. And then when they approached me again to say, hey, we want to do something special and interesting and do this interview and have fun with it, I was like, oh yeah, we should totally do that, 100%. And it turned into this right here, and be able to show that, hey, that was exactly what I thought it would be, and exactly what I thought would be a bunch of fun, and it turned out to be that. So I'm very, very excited to see that. So thank you guys so much for joining me. And yeah, thank you, Mitch. Thanks for chatting with me. That was, I was so, I was actually I was really nervous. I'm pretty good at doing interviews and sitting with people and saying, this is something that I could do for a while, and I can sit and chat with somebody that I've spoken to a few times, but don't really know super well. When I was like, oh, but we got to do this for 2 whole hours. This is gonna be hard. And then I started thinking about the game, started thinking about like Viking lore, and started thinking about like Norse mythology and a lot of that stuff. I was like, no. And Mitch being a part of it, I was like, no, it's actually gonna be really easy. And those 2 hours went by really quick. So thank you for being a great guest, and thank you for thinking of me when you wanted to come do something like this. It's really cool. I really appreciate it.